We'll discuss some Minyani Birkas Kohanim, the special blessing that the Kohen gives to the people. It isn't really the special blessing of the Kohen, it's really God's blessing through the medium of the Kohanim. And in fact, we're all taught when we're very young not to look at the Kohanim when they're doing the Birkas Kohanim, and they're taught that you're going to go blind if you look. They try to scare the kids or people not to look, and you're going to go blind if you look. In fact, there's a famous...
I always wondered why I put my tongue down. Yeah.
There's an old Jewish folklore joke they say over, or Yiddish folklore, that the first time someone looks, they go blind on their right eye. The second time they look, they go blind in the left eye. Jewish folk ask, what happens when you look a third time? But either way, it's the Gemara in Sota. The Gemara in Sota 38b points out that there are different, I think there are three things the Gemara says that dims one's eyesight. Not go blind, but dims one's, maybe need glasses, whatever dimming eyesight means. And of course, that doesn't mean coincidentally looking, it means like staring. It doesn't mean anyone, you're looking by, you're moving around. But what are the three things that one looks at when dims their eyesight? So one is looking at the Kohanim during Duchening. The second one is looking at a Nasi, looking at the prince. And the third one is the rainbow, the Keshet. So what exactly is the problem in Birkas Kohanim looking? So the Gemara tells us, the Mishnah tells us, so Bizban Beis HaMikdash Kaya, when the Beis HaMikdash was up, the Shechina used to be shora on the fingers with the gaps, different places, and hence one was not permitted to look because you're not supposed to look directly at the Shechina. However, Bizman Hazeh, we don't really have that issue, because it was only when we have a Beis HaMikdash, the Gemara points out. So why Bizman Hazeh can't we look? So that's what Tosas quotes from the Yerushalmi, a different reason of distraction. That you're not supposed to distract yourself during the bracha. In fact, the Achronim point out they're different minhagim, and I guess different synagogues are different. Ohib Tzedek has their own minyanim, as is Israel. But what does the Kohen do? How does the Kohen cover up? Does the Kohen cover his head with the talis? Does it cover his fingers? So the different minhagim, different Kohanim do it differently. So I think it's the Maggid Avraham will point out, or other Achronim, why do you cover both? Why does he cover his face? And why does he cover his fingers? So some point out he covers his head so the Kohen shouldn't be distracted. For the reason of this, that he should focus on the bracha. And he covers the fingers when he's doing the Birkas Kohanim, is not to distract the people, that they shouldn't be distracted. In fact, that's why the Gemara talks about someone with a mum shouldn't be doing Birkas Kohanim, because if everyone's going to be looking at the mum, so then, even though one could argue today that maybe if you're covering it up, so therefore it's okay. But what do we see from here? We see from this, from these Achronim, that not only is the mitzvah on the Kohen to bless the people, but there seems to be a mitzvah on us, on the non-Kohanim, on the non-Kohanim, on the Yisrael and Levi, also to be part of the bracha. Because why are they afraid? I'm going to be distracted. What's the difference? I'm not doing the bracha. I can be distracted all I want. Apparently, that the people should not be distracted, it means that they're included as well. Part of not only is the mitzvah on the Kohen to bless the people, but the Kohen has to bless someone. In fact, that's another famous Gemara in Sota. You'll find many of the laws of Birkas Kohanim in Masechah Sota, 37, 38, 39, in that area. And in fact, the famous case, let's say you only have Kohanim in the shul. Albeit we have many Kohanim here, more than Leviim, in fact. But what happens if you're a shul, all you have 10 men, and they're all Kohanim? What happens with Birkas Kohanim? Very good. So, very good. So all 10 go up and do Birkas Kohanim, correct?
There's nothing left to be.
So the question is, who they're giving the bracha to? There's no one there. So the Gemara says, the Am Shebesados. Now the people in the field, again let me point out, Birkas Kohanim is a mitzvah done daily, not just on the Yom Tovim and Chutz La'aretz. So we're not assuming people are working on Yantif. We're talking about the people who are busy working. They're afflicted with poverty, you have to be out in the field, they can't make it to shul, and therefore they're a nusim, the Gemara calls, so those people also get the bracha. In fact, that's an interesting discussion. Certain shuls are set up where there's some seats on the east end, if I'm fiddling on the roof, they always talk about the Mizrach wall. If he was a rich man, I think he'd have seats up there. But there's certain seats in the shul that will be behind the Kohen. Like in the Kohen, the way the shul is set up, you go on the bima, and there are people on the side behind the Kohen. Is that an appropriate place? Or I should say, is that a place where if they stay there, will they be included in the Birkas Kohanim? So some say no. You need panim el panim. You have to be face to face with. Clearly, the custom of people turning around, turning their backs on the Kohen is clearly a no-go. That is not recommended unless you don't want to be included in the bracha. Then I would recommend that approach. But all things being equal, I would not. What about the people who are on the front of the Kohen? To that, some say that no, you need panim el panim. Others argue no. Just like the people working in the fields are included in the bracha, so too, what could you do? Your seat happens to be up front. There's no more room in shul. That's the only seat left. So you're included. Since it's a machlokas achronim, it's best just to come out. You don't have to stay by your seat during Birkas Kohanim. The custom seems to be to walk in front of go find another seat, go, and then you should be facing panim al panim. But they point out that one should be in front of the Kohen, again implying that not only is it the mitzvah on the Kohen to bless the people, but it seems to be that there's a mitzvah on the people as well to be included in the bracha by being in front of them. In fact, there's a famous Gemara in Shabbos and Ksuvis, which seems to be an apparent contradiction. The Gemara in Shabbos, or Gemara in Ksuvis, points out that, so he's pointed out that a non-Kohen perhaps is included in the bracha of Birkas Kohanim. However, the Gemara tells us clearly in Ksuvis that it's usher, is a prohibition for a non-Kohen to get up and do Birkas Kohanim. Let's say, a non-Kohen, he always wanted to do Birkas Kohanim, so he goes up and does. There's an Isser Aseh, the Gemara says, for a non-Kohen to go up and do Birkas Kohanim. The problem is the Gemara tells us in Shabbos, Rav Yossi, one of the great rabbis of the Talmud, points out, he tells one of his friends, you know what? If I was asked, I wasn't asked, people say if I was invited, I'd feel better, even though I don't want to go. But if I was asked to go up and duchen with the Kohanim, I would go up with them. And I'm not a Kohen. So what's going on here? We just finished saying there's a prohibition for non-Kohen to go up and do Birkas Kohanim. And the great Rav Yossi says, I would go up and do it if I was asked. So what's the pshat? What is Rav Yossi saying? I should go ahead and violate the Isser Aseh? I don't think that's what he meant. So what did he mean? So different commentators give different answers. So the Tosfos seems to be working with the Darkei Moshe, the Ramah. They say it depends. Are there other Kohanim in shul or not? So which way is it? Which way is better? Which way is worse? So the way Tosfos learns and the Darkei Moshe learns, it's not the same but similar. If there are no other Kohanim in shul, so then Tosfos writes to be a bracha levatala. The concern would be that if he'd go up alone, it'd be a bracha levatala. That's what Tosfos seems to be the focus on. But so So therefore, they point out, so if there's no one else, there'd be a bracha of Atola, but the Ramah seems to say, if there are other Kohanim, then he can't go up. But if the Ramah seems to write that if he's the only one, so then he can go up. If there are other Kohanim there, he can't go up. So, or I should say the opposite, he can't go up alone, he could go up with other Kohanim. And others say no. The issue is, the Bach writes that when is there a prohibition for non-Kohen to go up and do Birkas Kohanim? In fact, there are two names people refer to Birkas Kohanim. Birkas Kohanim, some people call it. What else is it also known as? Nisias Kapayim, which means the raising of the hands. And it doesn't seem to be just some colloquial expression. It's a major machlokas among the Achronim and Rishonim how important is Nisias Kapayim. If a Kohen goes up and does the Birkas Kohanim but doesn't raise his hands, so it's a major shaila in the poskim whether you did the mitzvah or not. So the Bach, and then the Bach feels very strongly. He calls it Nisias Kapayim, not Birkas Kohanim, because the Bach writes that you only fulfill the mitzvah when he lifts his hand. So the Bach says, when would Rav Yossi go up and do Birkas Kohanim? When he'd go up and he wouldn't put his hands up. That's because it's nothing then. But to go up and put up your hands, then it'd be an Isser. And in fact, that's what the Rashba writes. We know there's a prohibition about Tosif. We know we can't add to the Torah, we can't subtract from the Torah. So the Kohen's only allowed to give, he gives 3 brachas, let's say. Okay, let's say a Kohen wants to add a 4th bracha. So the Gemara says it's Baal Tosif, if a Kohen wants to add a 4th bracha. So there comes along the Rashba and says, that's only if when he adds the 4th bracha, he does Nisias Kapayim. But if he doesn't raise his hands, then it's no problem, because it's not considered Nisias. So the Bach says that's when Rav Yossi would have done it. In fact, this answers a famous kasha people ask, if there's an Isser for a non-Kohen to do Birkas Kohanim, so there's a minig in many families Friday night for the parents to bless the children, or some have a custom at a wedding or bar mitzvah, and Ryan witnessed that last Sunday that they did Birkas Kohanim at a wedding before, or I should say the bracha the parents gave to the kids. So how could you do that? In fact, isn't there a problem? So according to that's what they say is the famous story with the Vilna Gaon. Either it's at the Nod of Yehuda's wedding or the Nod of Yehuda's bar mitzvah, one of the two. He went ahead and he gave the Nod of Yehuda bracha. But the way the Aruch HaShulchan brings it down, he only put one hand on his head. So why did he only do one hand? Because he seems to be working with the Bach that the prohibition is Nisias Kapayim, putting both hands. Nisias Kapav, one hand, that seems to be my minig. Friday night, I only put one hand, working with the Gra, that therefore it's not a problem. I'll show you it's not a problem anyway of Nisias Kapayim, but just to take away one of the lesser issues, if you use one hand, so that according to the Bach and the Vilna Gaon, it's not a problem. That's what some point out. Others point out it's not a problem at all, so therefore Rav Yossi went up, he didn't do Nisias Kapayim, that's what Rav Yossi meant. A third approach is, we know we have a principle, mitzvah strichas kavana. We have a general machlokas in the Talmud, whether mitzvahs require intent or not. Does that mean Alan's about to put on his tefillin now? Does that mean, according to that opinion, who says mitzvahs don't have kavanah, you shouldn't have kavanah now? No, of course not. That's a post facto machlokas, that if you put on tefillin without kavanah, do you have to redo it? But everyone agrees that you should have kavanah before you do the mitzvah. So since Birkas, so how do we paskin? On a mitzvah min Torah, we say you need kavanah. If kavanah is indispensable, without the kavanah, you don't get the mitzvah. On a mitzvah d'Rabbanan, you yotze either way. So we paskin Birkas Kohanim is a mitzvah min Torah. So therefore, if you don't have kavana, so Rav Yossi wasn't having kavana for Birkas. He was going to go up without having the kavana, and therefore it wouldn't be a problem of a zar doing it. And there's a fourth approach from the Sefer Haflah. They like this answer in the Yeshiva Shavel. They like to love this. They point out as follows. It's the opposite of the first answer. That if there's no other Kohanim, then he says you can go up. If you'd only show in town, then you could go up and do it. There's no problem. That's what Rabbi Yossi would have done. You know when the problem is? When there are other Kohanim. Why? Why? What's the svara? What's the logic to that? Because that's as we're pointing out. That not only is it a mitzvah on the Kohen to bless the people, but a mitzvah on the people to be blessed. You need panim al panim. So when there's no one in shul, no Kohen, what's the difference? You're not losing anything, go up and do it. But if there are other Kohanim, if you're not in front of them, panim al panim, you're going to miss out on your part of the mitzvah of Birkas Kohanim. And therefore they point out, that's when Rav Yossi would have went out. That Rav Yossi would have went up only in a case where there was no Kohanim in shul, and therefore he wouldn't have missed out on the bracha of Birkas Kohanim. So let's summarize. So we pointed out there's a mitzvah in our Torah, Birkas Kohanim. The Gemara in Sota tells us that a Kohen who does not go up when he's called violates three ases, Kol Sivarchu, Emor Lahem, and etc. And we pointed out that the Gemara tells us that one of the three things, a person's eyes get dim when you look at a Kohen, when you look at the rainbow and the Nasi. And however, Bizman Hazeh, it doesn't seem to apply because there is no Beis HaMikdash, there's no Shechina. That's not so pasha, but that's a simple reading of the Bavli. And therefore, why don't we look today at the Kohanim? So they point out, Tosas goes to Yerushalmi because of distraction. And we pointed out the different minhagim. The Kohen cover their heads not to be distracted by the people, and the Kohanim cover their hands not to distract us from when we look at them, that we shouldn't be distracted. So therefore they point out that we see from here that we're also included in the bracha. It's not only a mitzvah on the Kohen to bless the people, it's a mitzvah on the people to be blessed. And that's why, and they brought, different proofs to that. And then we pointed out the apparent contradiction in the Gemara. Rabbi Yossi says he would have went up and done duchen even though he's not a Kohen. The Gemara in Shabbos says it's usher for a zar to do it. So we had different answers whether the prohibition is going up with other Kohanim. According to Rambam, that's okay to go up with other Kohanim. But to go up alone, that's the problem. Others say the problem is only going up if you do Nesiyas Kapayim. Others say it's only a problem if you go up with the Kavana to fulfill the mitzvah Birkas Kohanim. And the Haflah points out that it's only a problem if there are other Kohanim there, you're going to miss out on the bracha. But to go up alone, that's not an issue. We'll have to continue with the issue of a Kohen Shaharag, a Kohen that killed someone. There's a Gemara in Brachas tells us, based on a pasuk in Yeshaya, a Kohen that kills cannot do Birkas Kohanim. So we have to see the limitations of that halacha. Someone in the IDF, or let's say you fought in World War I and you had to fight a war and you're a Kohen, are you still eligible to do Birkas Kohanim? And we'll tie it into Parshas Pinchas.